What is going on, everybody? So I'm here right now at the shop, but today I want to take you guys along because I'm going to a really beautiful aquarium. It's an anemone tank, but it's also got some softies and a couple of LPS. Really simple setup, nothing too crazy, but this tank is just really well established, and I just had to share it with you guys because it's just stunning. But I'm here at the shop now, like I said, and I'm doing some coral fragging. So we got the frag saw set up here, breaking down all this coral. We had our tank over here filled with corals, and if you guys watch my videos, you remember how much coral was in this tank. We've actually gone through that, Tommy's gone through that, and just kind of fragged all those pieces up, chopped them all up via the saw, potassium chloride dip, and then after that, they are put here in this little holding tank. You see all the different corals in here. All these corals right here have not been treated, okay? So none of these have been fully dipped. They do their preliminary dip, but they still have aptasia. Here's proof of that right there, a bunch of aptasia. And once we get them here, after we do our initial dips, they kind of chill out, hang out in here. There is Bergia in this system too, so that's helping us take care of some of the aptasia. But after here, they get chopped up even more, and then they go into the back into frag tanks where they go through several more dips, and then we'll put them in this 30-gallon tank right here for observation, make sure nothing weird is going on. Aptasia is probably the only thing that can get through all our dips. So it's a long process and it can be tedious, but so we got a coral shipment in, and when we were noticing this Goniopora, Tommy, with all his experience and sharp eyes, noticed that there is a Goniopora eating nudibranch. Nudibranch, right? And this is pretty cool because you can see them right there on the bottom. They're a little bit, so you can notice the Goniopora is stuck into the skeleton, and those are out. Let's get a little better picture. Those two things right there. They actually look like Goniopora polyps. So, you know, to the untrained eye, you wouldn't think much of it. But those things are attacking this Goniopora and they will eat it. And right now this is in a potassium chloride dip to kill them, so we'll see how that works. There's also a potential that they lay the eggs. And this, folks, is why we quarantine our corals here at Tank Missions. They finally will make their way into our for sale tank, and things have been growing like crazy in here. I'm actually fragging up some zoas because everything is just growing so well in our holding tank. We really need to get a grow out tank, but this Pectinia was in that 40-gallon I showed you guys earlier, and we've actually fragged it up and treated it for what it needed to be treated for. And look at that, look at all the growth on these zoas. So I'll be going through here, chopping up some of these zoas and putting them on different frag plugs, because the longer they stay in here and the more growth they have, obviously, like, they'll start growing on the egg crate, so we can't have like that Midas is about to grow onto the egg crate right there. And we'll frag that up and we'll spread it out throughout the aquarium. Everything is doing really well in here. So as we are dipping this coral and letting it sit for a long time with potassium chloride, we've noticed that there's a lot more nudibranchs on here, and there's tons of egg casings too. So a situation like this, if it's a really expensive coral and you want to give it a go and you had its own little isolated tank, you could frag it down as much as possible, get in there and chop it up and get rid of much skeleton as you possibly can. But it's just not worth the risk to contaminate the rest of our corals with this, so we're just going to go ahead and toss this out because there's too many eggs in here, and those eggs are really hard to deal with and hard to break down. So even with like a bare insecticide, potassium chloride dip, anything like that, I don't know, it just wouldn't seem like it'd be worth it. So one coral, you lose one coral, but you know, you're saving a lot more.
All right, so here we are at the customer's house, and I just had to share this tank because look how beautiful this is. This is crazy. Look at the coralline algae growth on the back of that back glass. Anemones are growing like crazy. Like, all the corals in here are just doing fantastic. So let's just do a really quick tour right here. We have some red discosomas that are pretty much isolated to this corner, which is surprising. He does a very good job of fragging, keeping things clean so they don't spread too far. These beautiful rose bubble tip anemones that have been, I mean, usually every time I come here, I'm having to get a couple out of here just because they're spreading. and they pretty much are doing good staying in this general area. The clowns obviously love them. But when it comes to anemone tanks, I'm not big on them just because, if you want other corals, it can be a problem. This tank might be the exception. He's doing an incredible job of keeping them isolated to just this one area. You have this hairy mushroom growing down, and it doesn't seem to be bothered by the aptasia at all. If anything, it seems the opposite. It seems the aptasia might be even bothered by the mushroom there. But that looks beautiful, just dripping down from that rock like that. You got an acanthalia, I believe that is. Big old acan. Now that thing he's had for forever. That originally I think he paid close to $800 for. But yeah, it's got its feeders out, ready to eat. That is so pretty. That's a beautiful coral. This is one of those that back in the day, you used to see them all the time. You used to see corals like this for a decent price, and now it's like you rarely see them, and they're really expensive. Beautiful blasto right here. You can see there's another head in the back there. That one's growing like crazy. It's nice and big and fluffy, like you want to see a blasto. And yeah, the color on it's insane. I love that contrast of the different colors that are in this tank. And another coral I don't really see too much in the hobby anymore are these Recordia mushrooms. I just don't see them as much anymore. They used to be so popular, the most common mushroom I used to see in the hobby about 7-8 years ago. Now I hardly see them. But he's got really pretty Recordia mushrooms in this tank, bright orange ones that are just growing like crazy. This is important because a lot of times you can't find these corals, and to be able to see them in customers' tanks, be able to farm them out of there is beautiful. It's awesome. There's a Frankenstein bounce mushroom. I remember when he first got that was so small. It was like the size of a dime. Now it's like the size of a $50, growing really, really well. I would love to get a piece of that, to be able to, if that ever split. And then back in the back, we have some rock flower anemones, which I think is a good addition to an aquarium like this. But overall, and some maxi mini carpets growing too. Just a really well balanced set of corals, especially that go in an anemone tank like this. When you have an anemone tank, you gotta be very selective with what you put in them because the anemones are just so aggressive. Got some AI 32s on here, Aqualumination 32s on here. Plenty of light for everything in here, no doubt. But we're here probably once every, say, month or so. And we do a service, a bit of a water change test. But this tank is pretty dialed in. It's pretty locked in. All right, one of the other things I want to talk about was this little 20-gallon nano tank that is in my bedroom, this macroalgae planted aquarium. I'm done with it. I'm going to break it down, and I'm going to do something else with it, which you guys will see in the future. The reason why I'm breaking it down is because I've kind of had this tank as just an experimental thing just to kind of mess with. And it was just scraps from stuff I found in people's sumps, and I just kind of threw it in this tank and kind of see what would come of it. Just a little science experiment, but I'm at the point now where I want to do something different. So I'm going to break it down. I'm going to take all these, the mask gobies and the jawfish and the dotty back and whatever else is in here, and I'll bring those to the shop. I'll re-quarantine them and find them new homes. But I just want something a little bit different in my bedroom as I'm, next to my bed is something else to look at. I got a lot of enjoyment out of this aquarium, but it's time to upgrade. It's time to do something different. And what I have in mind, I'm really excited about. And it'll be something I think will be a little bit more fun to work with and keep me a little more interested. This one is just really tough because this macroalgae grows like crazy. I'm constantly having to prune it. You can see I haven't done it in a while. It definitely needs a trim. And I don't know. The aptasia came back also. That got taken care of with the nudibranchs, but then it came back. That was my mistake for not being vigilant. And but everything in here will be saved, and we'll find a new home for it. So I'll probably be doing that in the upcoming days, and then I will take a video of when I do the new 20-gallon setup in here, and hopefully you guys will like what I have in store. A tank like this just requires so much attention, and being that that's all I do all day is take care of tanks, I kind of want something that's going to be a little less work and more just of a relaxed vibe. So I want something that that's I'm not gonna have to work so hard on, like trimming this macroalgae, taking care of the aptasia. Like, it's a lot of work, and I do that all day. And I want something that's gonna be that's gonna help me relax and help me decompress, not add another step in my life, because I already got enough stuff going on. I don't want the tank in my house to be that much more work. And I also got a really big project coming up here that I'm gonna share with you guys that I'm really excited about. That I'm gonna share with you guys that is gonna take up the majority of my time when it comes to my free time at home.